The basement is dimly lit, with half-finished wooden structures scattered around. Renovation materials, drywall, lumber, power tools are stacked against the walls. A single flickering fluorescent light swings slightly above, casting dancing shadows across the concrete floor. The air is thick with dust and the smell of sawdust and fresh plaster. Close on, a blood stain on the concrete floor, dark and congealed. The camera pulls back to reveal the body of Hal Richardson, mid-60s, rough around the edges, wearing work clothes, jeans, and a faded t-shirt. His head rests against a support beam. Blood has matted his gray hair. His face is frozen in an expression of surprise and pain. A wooden plank lies a few feet away, also stained with blood. The camera pans across the basement, revealing the scope of construction work. Hand-scrawled notes on the walls mention electrical work, plumbing, and structural repairs. Photos of architectural plans are taped up haphazardly. Someone has been working on this basement for quite a while, and recently. Faint music filters down from upstairs, Halloween party sounds. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. Completely oblivious to what lies below. Main floor, Bryce Prescott's house continuous. The living room is transformed. Halloween decorations line every surface. Plastic skeletons hang from the ceiling. Orange and black streamers drape across doorways. Carved jack-o'-lanterns flicker with tea lights. A group of Navy personnel in various states of costume mingle. Some wear half-hearted costume elements, face paint, hats, masks pushed to their foreheads. Others are fully committed, decked out in elaborate military-themed costumes. The kitchen counter is loaded with snacks and drinks. A portable speaker plays a mix of Halloween and pop music. Lieutenant Bryce Prescott, 35, handsome and fit in the way all Navy SEALs seem to be, stands in the center of the room wearing jeans and a navy hoodie with a simple vampire bite mark drawn on his neck in fake blood. He's holding a beer and looking genuinely happy. This is a man home from deployment, surrounded by his team. Bryce raises his beer to the group. Bryce to being home. Thanks for the welcome back party, everyone. Nothing like spending Halloween with the best team in the Navy. The group cheers and drinks. Music blares louder. Someone turns up the volume and people begin to dance. Suddenly, Marcus, another Navy SEAL dressed as a pirate, taps Bryce on the shoulder. Marcus shouting over the music, "Dude, have you been down to the basement yet? I think there's a leak or something." Water's coming in under the door. Bryce's expression changes slightly. He's clearly not expecting any problems tonight. He sets his beer down. Bryce, water. It hasn't rained in a week. You sure? Marcus, yeah, man. Definitely water. Looks like it's been there for a while. You might want to check on it. Bryce exchanges looks with another teammate, Jackson, also a Navy SEAL, dressed as a werewolf. Jackson shrugs, not his problem. Bryce sighing, all right. Keep the party going. I'll be right back. Bryce grabs a flashlight from a kitchen drawer. He moves with the purposeful efficiency of someone trained in tactical operations, but his expression shows annoyance at the party interruption. He heads toward the basement door. Basement stairwell continuous. Bryce descends the wooden stairs carefully. The music from upstairs is muffled now, but still audible. His flashlight beam sweeps across the basement as he descends. At the bottom of the stairs, he stops. His flashlight catches the water Marcus mentioned. Sure enough, there's water pooling near the basement door. But it's not the water that freezes Bryce in place. It's the body. Bryce quietly, at first, what the? He steps closer, his military training kicking in. He doesn't touch anything. He studies the body carefully, the bludgeoned head, the blood, the wooden plank. His face goes pale beneath his tan. Bryce cant louder, calling up the stairs, Marcus. Jackson, get down here. Now, Tutu. NCIS Headquarters Operations Center night. The bullpen is mostly dark. Halloween decorations are scattered around, a few pumpkins on desks, some cobwebs in the corners. Most of the team has called it a night, heading out for Halloween festivities. But not everyone. Gibbs sits at his desk, reviewing files. He's removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. His desk lamp casts a focused pool of light across case files. He's clearly been here for hours. Even on Halloween, there's work to be done. Majee sits at his desk nearby, monitoring the security feeds on multiple screens. He's eating Halloween candy from a bowl on his desk. Someone left a bowl of trick-or-treat leftovers in the bullpen. He pops a Snickers into his mouth while scrolling through surveillance footage. Torres enters, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. She sets one on Majee's desk and one on Gibbs' desk. Torres, coffee, boss. The good kind from the break room. Gibbs barely looking up. Halloween. Why are you still here? Torres, figured you'd be burning the midnight oil. Besides, my costume was garbage. Worked as a detective. Apparently, I can't not work, even on Halloween. She moves to her own desk. She's changed back into her regular work clothes, but still has a plastic badge and gun holster on. Majii threw a mouthful of candy. You could have made way more effort, Torres. I'm definitely a pirate. He gestures to his outfit. He's wearing a captain's hat, a fake hook on one hand, and an eye patch. Torres, yeah, a pirate on Halloween. So original. Majii is about to respond when Gibbs' phone rings. Gibbs picks it up immediately. Gibbs. His expression shifts as he listens. Whatever the caller is saying is serious. Gibbs can't where. Hus. Gibbs can't how long. Hus. Gibbs can't we're on our way. He hangs up and immediately stands, grabbing his jacket. Torres and Majii are already standing, abandoning their Halloween vibes. Majii, what is it, boss? Gibbs' body in Arlington. House belonging to a Navy SEAL. Local PD is securing the scene. Torres on Halloween. Gibbs hang for the elevator. Death doesn't take holidays. Is FBI bullpen night. Dornigat enters, pushing a small cart with evidence bags. He sees Gibbs, Torres, and Majii heading for the elevator. Dornigat, whoa, where's everyone going? It's Halloween. Majii calling back over his shoulder. Murder doesn't take holidays, apparently. The elevator doors close with Gibbs, Torres, and Majii inside. Dornigat stands holding his cart, surrounded by abandoned Halloween candy and decorations, wondering if anyone's ever heard of a quiet Halloween night in law enforcement. It's Bryce Prescott's house main floor. Later, the party is over. Police tape now marks the basement door. Local police officers stand guard, looking uncomfortable. The Halloween decorations seem incongruous now. Skeletons and jack-o'-lanterns creating an accidentally on-theme crime scene aesthetic. The living room is mostly empty now, the other Navy SEAL having been ushered out by local police. Lieutenant Bryce Prescott sits on the couch, still wearing his vampire costume, looking shell-shocked. His leg bounces anxiously. He keeps opening his mouth to say something, then closing it. A female police officer stands nearby, taking notes. An NCIS evidence tech is photographing the basement door area, documenting everything. The front door opens. Gibbs enters, followed by Torres and Majii, all wearing their NCIS windbreakers. Despite the casual Halloween night environment, they shift immediately into work mode. Gibbs scans the scene, the Halloween decorations, the police tape, the traumatized Navy SEAL on the couch. He doesn't react outwardly, but his eyes take in every detail. Gibbs to the local police officer, clear the room. We've got it from here. The local police officer starts to protest. Gibbs can't, cutting him off. Federal crime scene. NCIS has jurisdiction. Thank you for securing it. The officer knows better than to argue with that tone. She nods to her partner, and they begin ushering the remaining police toward the door. Gibbs approaches Bryce. He moves with the calm authority of a man who's been doing this for 20 years. Gibbs can't, sitting across from Bryce. Lieutenant Prescott. Bryce in a daze. Yeah. Oh, you. NCIS. Gibbs. Special Agent Gibbs. You called this in. Bryce, I came down to check the basement. Water damage, supposedly. I found him. His eyes are still on his drink, unable to look Gibbs in the eye. Gibbs, the body. Bryce, yeah. I don't even know who he is. I've been deployed for 6 months. I just got back. There was a party. He trails off, the surreal nature of the situation hitting him. Majii entering from the basement stairs with Torres. Boss, you're going to want to see this. Basement continuous. The basement is now lit by portable crime scene lights. The harsh fluorescent lighting makes everything look worse, the blood more vivid, the body more violated by the intrusion of investigators. Ducky, the medical examiner, is already on scene, photographing the body. He looks up as Gibbs, Torres, and Majii enter. Ducky, Jethro. On Halloween, no less. I was just settling in for a quiet evening of sorting my autopsy reports. Thrilling stuff, really, when I got the call. He moves aside to give Gibbs a clear view of the body. Ducky Kant victim is male, approximately 60 to 65 years old. Single blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Preliminary assessment suggests he was struck with this. He points to the wooden plank with an evidence marker next to it. Ducky Kant appears to be a 2x4. No fingerprints visible, though we'll confirm at the lab. Time of death. Difficult to say precisely given the basement temperature, but I'd estimate 24 to 48 hours. Definitely before tonight's party. Gibbs' identity. Majii, no wallet on him, no phone. Whoever did this either took his ID or he didn't have any on him. Torres, there's something else. See these? She points to various items scattered around the basement. Architectural drawings, construction plans, detailed notes about electrical and plumbing work. Torres Kant looks like someone was doing major renovation work down here. And recently, Gibbs to Ducky, get him to autopsy. To Majii, Gibbs can't find out who this house belongs to. Cross-reference with the Navy. I want to know everything about Lieutenant Prescott deployments, finances, connections. To Toth, Gibbs can't basement. I want to know what renovations were being done and who authorized them. to an arriving evidence tech. Gibbs can't full sweep. Collect everything, the plank, the plans, dust samples, anything that might tell us who is working down here. The team disperses into motion, each member understanding their role. Autopsy room, NCIS headquarters. Later, Ducky is in his element. He's changed into his autopsy suit and is conducting the official examination. Gibbs enters and stands silently, allowing Ducky to work. This is their ritual. Countless cases, countless bodies. Palmer, Ducky's assistant, stands nearby with a tray of instruments. Ducky probing the head wound, significant trauma to the posterior cranium. Blunt force, multiple strikes if I'm reading these impact patterns correctly. He looks closer, using a magnifying glass. Ducky can't. Interesting. See here, the implement used was roughly rectangular, consistent with a 2x4 or similar lumber. But the angles of the strike suggest aggression, yes, but also, let me think, perhaps passion. Gibbs' murder of passion rather than execution. Ducky, a reasonable interpretation. Whoever did this wanted him dead. Badly. Ducky continues his examination, dictating to Palmer as he goes. Ducky can't. Cause of death appears to be blunt force trauma to the head. No defensive wounds on the hands or arms. Victim didn't see it coming, or didn't have time to defend himself. Palmer, signs of struggle. Ducky, none to speak of. Either he was ambushed, or he was incapacitated before the fatal blows were struck. Ducky makes an incision and continues the autopsy. Ducky can't. Stomach contents. Recently eaten meal. Appears to be sandwiches, cold cuts, coffee. Consumed perhaps 3 to 4 hours before death. Any food found at the house. Gibbs, we're checking. Ducky pauses, studying something. Ducky, Jethro, come look at this. Gibbs moves closer. Ducky can't. Under the fingernails. Traces of what appears to be sawdust. Wood particulates. Our victim was working with wood prior to his death. Consistent with the basement environment. Gibbs, he was doing renovation work. Ducky, seemingly. Which raises the question, if he was working in that basement, why was he killed there? And by whom? Gibbs doesn't answer. That's what they're here to find out. NCIS bullpen. Morning, next day, November 1st. The Halloween decorations have been removed. The bullpen looks normal again, just desks, monitors, and focused agents. McGee sits at his desk surrounded by printouts and his computer screens glowing with multiple open windows. Torres sits nearby, also surrounded by paperwork. Bishop, who arrived early at the office, is reviewing the basement scene photos on the evidence board. Gibbs enters with coffee, already dressed, already focused. He moves straight to the evidence board where photos of the victim and the basement are pinned. Gibbs, what do we have? McGee is standing and approaching the board. Victim is Hal Richardson, 62 years old. Criminal record going back to the 90s. Fraud, forgery, some construction-related violations. Lately, though, nothing. Clean for about 2 years. He pins a photograph of the victim on the board, a mugshot from years earlier, and a more recent DMV photo. McGee can't. He was living in Arlington. No steady employment listed, but our financial records show regular deposits every 2 weeks. Approximately $2,000 per deposit for the last year. Gibbs, from who? McGee, that's where it gets interesting. The deposits are from a shell company. We're tracing it now, but it's been carefully set up to obscure the source. Torres standing. I tracked down the renovation work. Plans filed with the Arlington County Building Department show that Lieutenant Prescott applied for a permit for basement renovation 9 months ago. Approved contractor was listed as Hal Richardson. She puts up architectural drawings on the board. Torres comped the scope of work was extensive new electrical wiring, plumbing reconfiguration, structural reinforcement. Estimated project cost $50,000. But here's the thing, the project was marked as abandoned in the county records. No final inspection completed. Bishop looking up from the photos, so the work was never finished. Or at least, not officially. Torres, exactly. According to the paperwork, work stopped 7 months ago. Gibbs, McGee, pull the financial records for Prescott. I want to know if he actually paid Richardson. McGee is already typing. McGee already on it. Pulling his bank statements now. Pause as he searches. McGee can't hear. Multiple payments to Richardson Construction, that was the registered business name. First payment $400,000, made approximately 9 months ago. Everyone pauses. That's a lot of money. Bishop, $400,000 for renovation work. McGee, that's what the invoice says. But it's not a typical renovation invoice. The invoice is vague. Just lists basement renovation and structural modifications with no itemization. Gibbs and OS. A voice from behind them sounds like money laundering to me. The team turns. Leon Vance, NCIS director, stands there in his suit, having entered the bullpen without anyone noticing. Vance, why would a Navy SEAL be moving $300,000 through a contractor? That's not renovation money. That's mob money, drug money, or something equally problematic. Gibbs, Richardson was providing the service. Whatever service that was. Vance, find out what it is. And find out if there are more Navy SEAL involved. I'm getting calls from the Navy's Criminal Investigation Service. They're concerned about potential corruption within a SEAL team. Vance exits. The weight of those implications hangs over the bullpen. Pora's money laundering. Gibson, it certainly fits the pattern. Legitimate-looking construction work, payments disappearing. The worker ends up dead in the basement. Magee, which means whoever killed Richardson wanted to stop the money flow, or stop him from talking. Gibbs cutting off further speculation. We need to talk to Prescott again. And we need to find out what other Navy personnel had similar renovations. He looks at the board. Hal Richardson's face, the basement, the evidence. Gibbs comped. This is about more than one dead contractor. This is about corruption in the military. And someone just closed a loose end. Interrogation room, NCIS headquarters morning. Lieutenant Bryce Prescott sits across from Gibbs. He's no longer in his Halloween vampire costume. He is wearing navy blues dress uniform. He looks professional, prepared, and terrified. A Navy JAG lawyer, Commander Richard Casey, sits beside him. Gibbs setting files down 17 payments to Hal Richardson over a 9-month period. Total $384,000. Prescott carefully. I wanted renovations done on my house. Commander Casey intervening. Lieutenant Prescott is not obligated to discuss his private financial transactions. Gibbs ignoring the lawyer. Typical basement renovation, Arlington County, costs between $30,000 and $50,000. I called 3 contractors this morning. $30,000 gets you a complete renovation. $50,000 gets you custom work. You paid $384,000. Prescott's jaw tightens. Gibbs comped. Either Richardson was the worst contractor in the state, or he was doing something else. Something that required discretion, and something that required your money. Prescott to the lawyer. I want to speak to someone from Navy Special Operations. Commander Casey, we can arrange that, but Gibbs, you're stalling. Which means you know exactly what this is about. Gibbs leans forward. Gibbs comped. Man is dead, Lieutenant. Beaten to death in your basement. That basement where work was being done, work that cost you nearly $400,000. Now you can either tell me what he was doing for you, or I can assume you killed him and forget about the whole military courtesy angle of this investigation. Prescott suddenly, I didn't kill him. Commander Casey, Lieutenant, I advise you to remain silent. Prescott ignoring the lawyer. I didn't kill him. He was blackmailing me. The words hang in the air. Gibbs, I'm listening. Gibbs sits in the chair across from Prescott, his posture relaxed but his eyes intensely focused. He's been doing this for 20 years, reading people, understanding the layers of truth and deception that exist in every confession. Prescott's admission of blackmail has changed everything. The recording device's red light blinks steadily in the corner of the room. Every word is being captured, documented, preserved for the federal record. The walls are concrete, painted an institutional beige that seems designed to drain color from reality. A single table, 4 chairs, and nothing else. This is where confessions happen. This is where people's lives are reconstructed into evidence. Gibbs leaning back slightly, giving Prescott space. I need you to start from the absolute beginning. When did you first meet Richardson? Prescott rubbing his face tiredly. 6 months before I deployed. Maybe February? I was at a bar in Arlington called O'Malley's. It's where a lot of Navy guys go. It's close to the base. The drinks are cheap, and nobody asks questions. Gibbs taking notes. Was Richardson already there when you arrived? Prescott nodding. He was sitting in the corner. I noticed him because he seemed out of place. Everyone else in the bar was Navy, military types. Richardson looked like a civilian, but not a civilian, if that makes sense. He looked like someone who used to be military. I found out later he had been. Gibbs without looking up from his notes. He approached you. Prescott voice getting quieter. Yeah. He came over to my table with a beer. Just sat down like we'd planned to meet. And he said, Prescott stops, clearly struggling with the memory. His hands are shaking slightly. He clasps them together to steady himself. Gibbs meeting his eyes. Take your time. Prescott exhaling slowly. He said, I know who you are, Lieutenant Prescott. I know what you do. And I know things about your personal life that you would prefer remain private. Gibbs writing. What was your response? Prescott laughing bitterly. I thought he was hitting on me. I thought this guy was drunk and confused. So I told him to get lost. I told him to go away. But he didn't leave. He just sat there and he started describing. Things. Personal things. Private things. Things only I would know. Gibbs looking up. What kind of things? Prescott hesitating, then committing to the truth. I had been in a relationship. Before the Navy. Before I came out. When I was 17, 18 years old. I was confused about who I was. I didn't come out to my family until I was already in the Navy. Already an officer. Already established in the community as a certain type of person. He stands up and walks to the corner of the room, unable to sit still with the weight of what he's about to reveal. Prescott cocked his back to Gibbs. Richardson had photographs. From back then, From when I was young and stupid and confused and trying to figure out who I was. He had them somehow. I don't know how he got them, but he had them and he showed them to me right there in that bar on his phone. Just displayed them like he was showing me pictures of his family or something casual. Gibbs quietly, with understanding. How did you react? Prescott turning back to face Gibbs. I panicked. I immediately grabbed his phone to try to delete them, but he was faster. He pulled back. He laughed at me. He said that all he wanted was to talk business. He said there was an opportunity for me to make some money. He sits back down, looking defeated, his earlier military bearing completely gone now. Prescott continuing, his voice hollow. He said if I was interested in some discreet financial transactions, we could come to an arrangement. No one would ever need to know about the photographs. The images would stay private, stay secure. All I had to do was receive regular deposits to an account he'd set up and pass along certain items of information or access that he requested. Gibbs, his pen poised. What kind of information? Prescott hesitating, then committing. He was vague about it. He said he was a private investigator gathering background information on various military officers for a government contractor. He said they needed current tactical information, deployment schedules, personnel rosters, security protocols. Nothing classified, he said, just operational details that would eventually be public anyway. Gibbs not buying it, his tone making it clear. And you believed him? Prescott voice bitter and self-recriminating. No, I didn't believe him. But I was terrified. I was scared that if those photographs got out, if my family saw them, if my commanding officer saw them, if my colleagues saw them, that was it. 20 years, my career, my future, everything I'd worked for. He looks directly at Gibbs with anguished eyes, the weight of 6 months of extortion clearly visible in his expression. Prescott continuing, his voice breaking slightly. So I said yes. I said I'd help him. I said I'd provide the information he asked for. And he gave me the first deposit, $50,000, just like that, into an account I didn't even know existed until he handed me the banking information. Gibbs writing in his notebook. When was the next contact? Prescott after a pause, speaking more mechanically now as if he's recounting events rather than emotions. 3 weeks later, he called me. He said the arrangement had changed. He said the private contractor had been satisfied with the first batch of information, but they wanted more. They wanted more from me, and they wanted information from my entire team. Gibbs looking up from his notes, his eyes sharp. Your SEAL team. Prescott nodding miserably. He told me I needed to recruit the other officers. He said each person would receive the same compensation I had received, $50,000 for the initial payment, and then $30,000 per month thereafter. All they had to do was provide operational information and access to base systems. Gibbs leaning forward, his tone hardening. And if they refuse? Prescott voice dropping to barely above a whisper. He said he had material on all of them, similar material to what he had on me. Photographs, videos, personal information, things that could destroy their careers and their families. He said he'd already been investigating us for months. He had files on all of us. Gibbs lets that sink in for a moment, his mind processing the sophistication of the operation. This isn't a simple extortion scheme. This is organized, systematic, predatory. Gibbs carefully, as if reading Prescott. Did you believe him? Prescott after a moment of painful reflection. I did, yeah. Because he showed me. He showed me files on 3 of my teammates. Detailed dossiers with photographs, with personal information, with leverage points. He had done his homework. He knew everything about us. Where we went on weekends, who we were seeing, what our vulnerabilities were. Gibbs stands and walks to the evidence board on the wall, studying the photographs of Hal Richardson and the crime scene. Gibbs turning back, his tone matter of fact. How many of your teammates actually agreed to provide information? Prescott after a long pause, speaking quietly. All of them. Every single one of us. 8 officers total. We were all compromised. We all had something to lose. Gibbs moving back to his seat and sitting across from Prescott. Walk me through the mechanism. How did the information transfer happen? How did you pass along classified data? Prescott composing himself slightly, but still visibly uncomfortable. We didn't transfer classified data. That was the one thing Richardson specifically told us not to do. He said that was a line that couldn't be crossed. That would bring too much heat, too many federal agencies. He only wanted operational information. Deployment schedules, personnel rosters, access codes for base entrances, security protocols, that kind of thing. Gibbs's pen moving across the paper, which is classified. Prescott defensively, trying to justify himself. It's operational security information, yeah, but nothing that would compromise national security in any immediate way. It's the kind of stuff that's eventually released to the public anyway, through FOIA requests or official publications. Gibbs not accepting the excuse, his voice firm. It's still theft of government property. It's still espionage. Prescott, you can rationalize it however you want, but you compromised your oath as an officer. You compromised the security of your team. You compromised the security of this country. Prescott quietly, completely broken now. I know that now. But at the time, I was telling myself that I was just sharing information that wasn't going to hurt anyone, that I was being smart about how I helped him, that I was protecting myself and my team by giving him what he wanted. Gibbs is quiet for a moment, just watching Prescott. There's sympathy in his eyes, but also a hardness that comes from 20 years of interrogations, of seeing good people make bad choices. Gibbs finally, his voice steady. How long did this go on? Prescott looking at the table, unable to meet Gibbs' eyes. 9 months. From February until I deployed in November. Every month, the deposits came in. Every month, we provided the information he asked for. No questions asked. We just gave him what he wanted and collected our money. Gibbs standing again, his posture showing the weight of what he's learning. And then you deployed. Prescott nodding, his voice slightly stronger now, as if a weight is lifting as he confesses. And then I deployed. I figured that was it. That the arrangement was over. That being overseas meant the situation would just end. That Richardson would move on to other targets. That I could go back to my life and pretend none of this had ever happened. Gibbs walking to the door, then pausing, but he didn't move on. Prescott looking up with anguished eyes. No. He contacted me while I was deployed, through a secure channel he'd set up. He said the arrangement was continuing. He said the people funding the operation wanted regular information from us. He said the monthly payments would continue as long as we kept providing the intelligence. 6 months of payments at $30,000 a month. $180,000 waiting for me when I got back. Gibbs pauses at the door, processing this information. The investigation just became exponentially more complex. Gibbs turning back. Those funds came in when you were deployed. Prescott confirming $30,000 a month, deposited directly to the account. I couldn't access it from overseas, but when I got back, it was all there. Accumulated. 6 months worth of payments waiting for me. And I knew that if I tried to stop it, if I tried to back out, Richardson would release the photographs. Gibbs moving back to his seat, his mind clearly working through implications, which means you were part of this operation the entire time, even when you weren't actively participating, which means you're complicit in whatever larger operation Richardson was running. Prescott voice hollow. Yeah, I was part of it, and I knew if I tried to stop it, if I tried to back out, Richardson would release the photographs. So I just accepted it. I accepted that I was compromised, that I was part of something bigger than I wanted to be part of, and I hated myself for it. Every single day I was deployed, I hated myself for what I'd agreed to, but I also couldn't find a way out. Gibbs moving back to his seat, matching Prescott's level, man to man. When you returned home 2 days ago, when you found Richardson's body in your basement, what was your first thought? Prescott meeting Gibbs' eyes, showing vulnerability. Relief. Pure, complete relief. I know that makes me sound like a monster. A man is dead and my first emotion was relief. But for 6 months, I'd been being bled dry, paying $30,000 a month to keep my secret safe. And suddenly, he's dead, and the bleeding stops. And I realized I was free. Gibbs picking up his notes. But then you realized you had a new problem. Prescott nodding slowly, understanding the implications. Yeah, I realized that I had a corpse in my basement, and I had no idea who killed him, and I had no idea what that meant for me, for my team, for the operation, for everything. Gibbs walking to the door. That's what we're here to find out. And Prescott, I'd recommend you get yourself a good lawyer, because before this is over, you're going to be facing federal charges for espionage, theft of government property, and conspiracy. He exits the interrogation room, leaving Prescott alone with the weight of his confession and the reality of his situation. Bullpen investigation expansion. NCIS bullpen continuous. Gibbs exits the interrogation room. Torres, Bishop, Magee, and now several additional agents are waiting. The FBI presence has expanded significantly. This is no longer just a local NCIS operation focused on a simple murder. This has become a federal investigation into potential espionage and military corruption. Magee immediately standing. Boss, we've got information from the bank. The account Richardson was using for the payments is traced back to a shell corporation registered in Delaware, but the physical office address is in Arlington, and the office is currently under surveillance. Torres holding up her tablet, showing documentation. I've also been researching Richardson's background more deeply. His criminal record, it's not random. Every crime he committed was related to fraud, forgery, and identity theft. He was a specialist in financial crimes. This wasn't his first extortion operation. This was sophisticated work, professional work. Bishop from her desk, surrounded by files and photographs. I've compiled information on the other Navy personnel involved. 7 officers besides Prescott. all junior officers, all deployed with Prescott's team or affiliated with it somehow, and all of them have received substantial monthly deposits over the past 6 months that align exactly with the timeline Prescott provided. An FBI special agent, Kate Mercer, 44, sharp-featured and professional, approaches Gibbs with a laptop open, her expression grave. Agent Mercer, Agent Gibbs, we need to talk about the bigger picture here. The deposits to these 8 officers, they're substantial, but they're insignificant compared to the overall financial activity of the organization Richardson was part of. We've been tracking unusual financial movements for months, suspecting fraud and money laundering, but we didn't have a clear picture until now. Gibbs looking at the screen as Mercer rotates the laptop toward him. How much are we talking about? Agent Mercer, her voice serious, over $50 million in extortion payments over the past 3 years. We're not talking about a small, localized operation. We're talking about something organized at a sophisticated level with layers of structure and international connections. Richardson wasn't working alone. He was part of a larger apparatus, and that apparatus has been compromising military and government personnel systematically. Gibbs's mind clearly working through the implications. Find this structure. I want to know who Richardson reported to. I want to know who authorized this operation. I want to know who profited from it. Interrogation Room 2. Webb's interrogation begins. Interrogation Room 2. Later afternoon. Marcus Webb sits across from his lawyer, James Richardson, who's not related to Hal Richardson but shares the name. They've been discussing strategy for the last hour. The evidence against Webb is mounting, and they both know it. Physical evidence at the scene, DNA, phone records, financial records. There's no escaping the fact that he was at Prescott's house on the night Richardson died. Webb to his lawyer, his voice controlled. If I cooperate, what do I get? James Richardson carefully laying out his assessment. Cooperation gets you consideration. In a murder case, consideration usually means a reduced sentence. Instead of life, maybe 20 to 25 years, maybe 15 if the prosecutor is feeling generous and the cooperation is substantial. But you have to understand something, Marcus. The evidence against you is strong. Your DNA is under the victim's fingernails. Your phone pinged the tower near Prescott's house at the time of death. Your financial records show you received payments from Cole's operation. You're going to face consequences. The only question is how severe those consequences are. Webb standing and walking to the corner, his military training evident in his posture defined substantial. James Richardson measuring his words carefully. If you can give them the person who ordered the murder, give them the entire organizational structure, give them actionable intelligence that leads to additional arrests and prosecutions, that's substantial. If you can provide testimony that takes down bigger fish, that helps the government make its case against people higher up in the organization, that's substantial. But understand this, if you flip, if you testify, there will be people on the outside who consider you a snitch. There may be consequences for that. Webb leaning against the wall, staring at nothing. I need to think about this. James Richardson urgently, his voice taking on a note of insistence. Marcus, you need to think about it fast. They're building a case against you right now. Every hour that passes, they're collecting more evidence. Every hour you stay silent, you're looking at a stiffer sentence. But every hour you cooperate, you're reducing that sentence. The window for cooperating is closing. Take my advice. Cooperate now, cooperate fully, and face 20 years instead of life. Webb stands at the corner for a long time, just staring at the blank wall. His career is over. His freedom is being measured in decades. His entire life has been reduced to this moment, in this room, making a choice that will define the rest of his existence. Webb finally, turning back. I want to speak to the NCIS agent, the one in charge. I want to cut a deal. Observation room. Gibson watches. Observation room continuous. Gibbs is watching the interrogation through one-way glass when an NCIS agent enters with a note. Gibbs reads it and nods, understanding that Webb is ready to flip. Agent whispering, Webb wants to talk to you. He says he's ready to cooperate. Gibbs standing, his expression unreadable. Get his lawyer, and get the prosecutor. We're going to be here for a while. When someone like Webb decides to flip, there's a lot to get through. Interrogation room 2 continued. Interrogation room 2 moments later. Gibbs enters and sits across from Webb. Webb's expression is different now. The military bearing has softened slightly. He looks like a man who's accepted his fate and is now looking for the best way to survive it. Gibbs calmly, his tone neutral. You wanted to talk. Webb leaning forward, his voice slow. I want a deal. Full immunity for anything I did in the extortion ring in exchange for complete cooperation in the murder investigation. I want to cooperate. but I need protection. I need a guarantee that I won't be charged for my participation in the extortion operation if I testify fully about everything. James Richardson cautiously will need to discuss. Webb cutting him off. To Gibbs, I didn't kill Richardson, but I know who ordered the hit, and I know why. And I can give you the entire organizational structure. Everything. Names, locations, financial information, the whole operation. I can give you enough to prosecute dozens of people. Gibbs studying Webb carefully, reading him. Why should I believe you? Webb meeting his eyes, showing genuine vulnerability because I've been trained to know when a situation is hopeless. And this is hopeless. The best I can do is minimize the damage to myself and to my family. That means cooperation. That means telling the truth. That means giving you everything you need to take down an organization that I never should have been part of in the first place. Gibbs standing. I need to talk to the prosecutor. Don't go anywhere. FBI Field Office Prosecution Discussion. FBI Field Office Prosecutors Conference Room later. Agent Mercer is in a conference room with 3 other federal prosecutors. Gibbs enters and they immediately begin discussing the implications of Webb's cooperation. FBI Prosecutor #1 looking at case files. If Webb can give us the organizational hierarchy, the financial infrastructure, and the identity of who ordered the murder, that's substantial value. We can definitely negotiate a reduced sentence. Agent Mercer checking her notes. Webb claims full immunity for the extortion involvement in exchange for murder investigation cooperation. That's probably too much to offer, but a significant reduction seems reasonable. The lead prosecutor, Helen Chase, 50s, tough and experienced, studies the case materials carefully, her legal mind clearly working through the complications. Helen Chase making a decision to offer him this guilty plea to manslaughter instead of murder. 15 years minimum, possibility of parole after 12. He provides complete testimony against the person who ordered the murder, and he provides full cooperation on the extortion investigation, identifying all participants and the organizational structure. If those conditions are met, we work with the court to recommend the reduced sentence. Gibbs nodding. And if he reneges? If he doesn't provide what he's promised? Helen Chase coldly, her voice hard. Then every deal is off the table and we prosecute him for the full murder charge. Life sentence. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Make sure he understands that. Interrogation room deal presentation. Interrogation room 2 later. Gibbs sits across from Webb, armed with the prosecutor's offer. James Richardson sits beside Webb, reviewing the terms carefully, his expression thoughtful. Gibbs reading from a document, his tone official manslaughter instead of murder. 12 to 15 years, possibility of parole after 12. In exchange, you provide complete testimony against whoever ordered the Richardson murder, and you cooperate fully in the extortion investigation. If you break this deal, if you withhold information, if you recant your testimony, the deal is void and you're prosecuted for the full murder charge. Webb after reviewing the document with his lawyer. I accept. Gibbs setting up the recording device. Then let's talk about why Hal Richardson is dead. Extensive interrogation. Webb's confession. Interrogation room 2 extended session. Webb is detailing the murder in clinical terms, almost as if he's describing a tactical operation from his military training. Webb into the recording, speaking formally. Cole contacted me 3 days before Richardson died. He said Richardson was becoming a problem. He said Richardson was threatening to expose the operation. He said Richardson had told him he wanted out. He said Richardson was going to go to the authorities. He said he had talked to FBI and other federal agencies about cooperating with investigations into the extortion ring. Gibbs taking notes, asking clarifying questions. What exactly did Cole say to you? Webb recalling the conversation precisely. He said, I need you to handle Richardson. Make sure he doesn't talk to anyone. Make sure he never becomes a problem again. Those were his exact words. Handle Richardson. And then he said, you know what I mean, and you know what happens if you refuse. Gibbs looking up. Did you ask for clarification? Did you ask what handle meant? Webb meaning Gibbs' eyes. No, I didn't ask for clarification, because I knew exactly what he meant. And I think Cole knew I would know. That's why he asked me specifically. He knew I had a military background. He knew I understood what he was really asking me to do. He was asking me to kill a man. Gibbs continuing. Why did you agree? Webb voice tight, showing the strain. Because I had no choice. Because Cole had leverage on me, just like he had leverage on everyone in the organization. Because if I didn't do what he asked, he would release the information he had on me. And that information would destroy everything I had built in my life. Gibbs carefully. What information? Webb after a long hesitation, speaking quietly. Photographs of me. From when I was in the army. When I was working in military intelligence. There was an incident. A relationship that shouldn't have happened. A subordinate officer was involved. The relationship was inappropriate given the power dynamic. The photographs documented it. They would have ended my career immediately if they'd been released. They would have resulted in criminal charges. They would have destroyed my family. Gibbs lets that sink in, understanding the nature of the pressure Webb was under. Webb can't continuing. So I agreed to handle the Richardson problem. Cole told me that Richardson would be at Lieutenant Prescott's house on a specific evening. He said Richardson was meeting with Prescott to discuss a final payment for his services. He said that would be the perfect opportunity. He said the party upstairs would provide cover. Gibbs leaning forward, did Cole tell you where Richardson would be in the house? Webb nodding, he said Richardson would be in the basement. He said he knew Prescott's renovation work had been going on for months, and Richardson liked to check on the progress when he visited. He said I should go down there, and that there wouldn't be anyone else around. He said I should take care of it quietly. He said nobody would even know what had happened until much later. Gibbs standing, walking to the window, and you did. Webb voice hollow, showing the way to the confession. I did. I went to Prescott's house at approximately 11:45 p.m. The party was still going on upstairs. Nobody paid attention to me. I went down to the basement. Richardson was there, looking at the renovation work. He didn't even hear me come down the stairs. He stops, breathing heavily. The memory is clearly difficult, even now, even after everything. Webb continuing, his voice getting quieter. I picked up the 2x4. I just did it. 2 strikes to the back of his head. He fell. He started to crawl away. He was trying to move toward the stairs. He was trying to escape. I hit him again. 2 more times. He stopped moving, and I knew he was dead. The room is silent. The confession is complete. The details are clear. Gibbs quietly, what did you do after that? Webb looking at his hands. Unable to meet Gibbs' eyes, I put the 2x4 down. I checked his pulse to make sure he was gone. I left the house. I went back to the party upstairs like nothing had happened. I stayed for another 15 minutes, then I left. Gibbs sitting back down, did anyone see you leave? Webb shaking his head, no. Everyone was dancing, drinking, having a good time. Nobody was paying attention to who was coming or going. I just blended back into the party and waited until a reasonable time to leave. FBI conference investigation expansion. FBI headquarters secure conference room later. Webb's full statement has been recorded and documented. Copies are being made. Legal documents are being prepared. The prosecutor, Helen Chase, is reviewing everything carefully with her team. Helen Chase to Agent Mercer, her voice professional. This is good. We have a solid first-hand account of the murder. We have Cole's ordering of the murder, documented by an eyewitness. That's enough for murder conspiracy charges against Cole, and it gives us leverage to push him to cooperate as well. Agent Mercer checking her notes. What about the broader extortion operation? Webb's willing to provide testimony on that too, right? Helen Chase nodding, he is. And according to the cooperation agreement, he has information about other operatives, other military victims, financial infrastructure, international contacts. This is going to crack the whole thing open. This investigation just went from a murder case to a major federal corruption case. Cole's interrogation and confession. FBI interrogation room. Cole's continued statement. Same time. Cole's lawyer, a high-powered criminal defense attorney named David Chen, has advised his client to remain silent. But Cole has decided differently. Cole has understood the implications of Webb's cooperation and has made a calculated decision to talk first, to establish his narrative before Webb can establish his. Cole calmly, into the recording device. I ordered Marcus Webb to kill Hal Richardson. I did this because Richardson had become a security liability to my operation. He was having doubts about the work we were doing. He was threatening to expose it to federal authorities. FBI agent taking notes. Why did you trust Webb with this responsibility? Cole leaning back, his expression showing calculation, because Webb had already demonstrated his loyalty. He had already proven that he was willing to do what needed to be done to protect the operation. I had leverage on him. Substantial leverage. I knew he would comply with my orders without question. FBI agent continuing, and the operation itself. Explain the structure to us. Cole, after a pause, his voice becoming more detailed. The operation was designed to collect blackmail material on military and civilian government personnel. The material was then used to extort money from those individuals. The money was used to fund other operations. Intelligence gathering, asset development, corporate espionage, infiltration of government agencies, that kind of thing. FBI agent carefully, who was funding this operation initially? Where did the capital come from? Cole hesitating, I can't answer that question completely, because I was insulated from the top, but I can tell you it came from overseas, from foreign intelligence agencies who had an interest in compromising U.S. military personnel. The operation generated enough revenue to become self-sustaining, but it was always directed by someone at a higher level than me. Someone with access to significant resources and high-level contacts. FBI agent leaning forward, who's the directing authority? Cole meeting the agent's eyes, his voice firm. A retired 3-star general named Thomas Blackwell. former deputy director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He's the one who set up the infrastructure. He's the one who coordinated with foreign intelligence services. He's the one who knew how to use the blackmail material once it was collected. And he's the one who authorized Richardson's murder. The name causes a visible stir among the federal agents present. A three-star general running an international extortion ring is not a development anyone was expecting. National security crisis. Is FBI Headquarters Operations Command Center immediately after. The information about General Blackwell triggers immediate action at the highest levels of government. Emergency calls are being made to the FBI Director. Calls are being made to the CIA. Calls are being made to the Department of Defense. Calls are being made to the National Security Advisor at the White House. An FBI Assistant Director, Carl Hudson, is briefing multiple agencies via secure video conference. His expression is grave. His voice carries the weight of what he's communicating. FBI asked. Director Hudson on camera, addressing multiple agencies. We have credible evidence of a large-scale extortion and intelligence gathering operation being run by a retired three-star general named Thomas Blackwell. The operation appears to have been running for approximately 15 years. The scope includes military personnel across all branches, civilian government employees, and international contacts with foreign intelligence services. CIA representative on screen urgently, their security clearance giving them immediate access to concerning information. Blackwell dropped off our radar 5 years ago when he retired. We knew he had disappeared from the military community, but we didn't know he was running an active operation. We didn't know he was actively compromising U.S. military and intelligence personnel. This is a significant intelligence threat. This is a national security emergency. FBI asked. Director Hudson continuing. We're implementing a manhunt. Blackwell is currently believed to be in Eastern Europe, but he may have moved. We're coordinating with international law enforcement and foreign intelligence services. We're also executing simultaneous arrests of known operatives in the extortion ring. Current count is 143 personnel identified for detention and questioning. The scope of the operation becomes clear, expanding beyond anyone's initial understanding. From a simple murder in a basement to a massive federal crisis involving multiple agencies, military branches, and international coordination. NSA representative on screen chiming in. We're implementing full surveillance protocols. We're monitoring financial transactions, communications, international travel. We're working with allied intelligence services to track Blackwell's movements. NCIS Bullpen becomes command center. If NCIS Bullpen evening. The bullpen has transformed into a command center. Multiple screens are displaying case information. Maps show locations of operatives being rounded up. Financial information is being compiled and analyzed. Additional agents from multiple agencies are now working alongside Gibbs' team. Gibbs stands at the center of this controlled chaos, giving orders, coordinating with federal agencies, tracking the expansion of the investigation as it grows in scope with each passing hour. Gibbs to Magee, his voice carrying authority. I need every financial transaction related to Cole's operation identified and traced. Go back 5 years. I want to see every dollar that moved through this operation. Magee already working frantically at his multiple screens. I'm cross-referencing bank records with intelligence agency databases. We're tracking shell companies, offshore accounts, cryptocurrency transactions. It's massive. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in movement. Gibbs to Torres, who's already on her phone. Contact every military installation commander. I want personnel rosters compared against Cole's victim list. I want to know if there are any operatives we're missing. I want to know how deep this goes. Torres into her phone, her voice urgent. Yes, we need urgent coordination with base personnel offices. This is a federal investigation into military corruption. We need a list of all officers and personnel who've had significant financial deposits in the past 5 years that don't correspond to military pay or benefits. Gibbs to Bishop, gathering documents. Get with the prosecutor. I want charges prepared against Cole for conspiracy to commit murder, extortion, espionage, and all related federal crimes. I want the charges to carry maximum penalties. Bishop gathering documents rapidly. I'm on it. Helen Chase is already preparing the documentation. She's coordinating with the U.S. Attorney's Office to file charges within 24 hours. Vance enters the bullpen, his expression grave. This is no longer just an NCIS matter. This has become a matter of national importance. Vance addressing the entire team, his voice commanding. This just became the largest military corruption case in federal history. We have cooperation from FBI, CIA, NSA, Army CIS, Air Force OSI, and Coast Guard Investigative Service. This is a joint task force now. Operations are being coordinated from FBI headquarters. You are all now operating under federal authority, not just NCIS authority. He looks directly at Gibbs. Vance continuing Gibbs, your liaison between NCIS and the Federal Task Force. I want to know everything, every development, every lead, every piece of evidence. This is being monitored at the highest levels of government. The director of the FBI wants updates twice daily. The director of the CIA wants updates daily. The National Security Advisor is being briefed on this investigation. Make sure we don't miss anything. Gibbs standing at attention. Understood, sir. We'll get it done. Federal Courthouse arraignment scenes. Federal Courthouse arraignment room next day. Marcus Webb stands before the judge for his initial appearance. His naval dress uniform is no longer his to wear, but he hasn't been officially discharged yet. His lawyer stands beside him. The courtroom is packed with media, observers, and federal officials. This has become a major story: military corruption, espionage, murder. The judge, a stern man in his 60s, reviews the charges from the formal document before him. Judge from the bench, speaking formally: Mr. Webb, you are charged with murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit murder, extortion, espionage, and related federal crimes. How do you plead? Webb's lawyer standing, his voice formal and measured: Your Honor, my client wishes to enter into a cooperation agreement with the federal prosecution. We have been negotiating with the U.S. Attorney's Office and believe we have reached a preliminary agreement. We respectfully request that this matter be continued pending finalization of the cooperation agreement. The federal prosecutor, Helen Chase, stands. Helen Chase addressing the court: The government has been negotiating with the defendant and his counsel. We believe his cooperation will be substantial in multiple ongoing investigations. The government requests that bail be set in a manner that allows Mr. Webb to remain available for interviews and depositions as needed for the investigation. The judge considers these arguments carefully. Judge making his ruling: The defendant is remanded into federal custody pending finalization of the cooperation agreement. All court dates are suspended pending notification from the prosecution. This court is adjourned. The gavel sounds. Webb is led away by federal marshals. He doesn't look back. Federal Courthouse arraignment room later that day. Garrett Cole is brought in for his initial appearance. Unlike Webb, who cooperated relatively quickly, Cole maintains his dignity and his defiance. He's dressed in a suit that his attorneys had brought to the courthouse. He looks like a man who still believes he can fight his way out of this situation. His lawyer, David Chen, sits beside him, furiously scribbling notes and making calculations about how to best defend an apparently indefensible case. The judge reading the charges: Mr. Cole, you are charged with conspiracy to commit murder, ordering a murder for hire, extortion, espionage, money laundering, tax evasion, and related federal crimes. How do you plead? David Chen stands immediately, his professional defiance evident in his posture. David Chen addressing the court: Your Honor, my client intends to enter a plea of not guilty to all charges. He maintains his innocence and is prepared to proceed to trial if necessary. We request bail be set to allow my client to prepare his defense. Helen Chase standing to object, her voice firm: Your Honor, the defendant is a significant flight risk. He has substantial financial resources that have been identified through our investigation. He has shown the capacity for valence through his ordering of a murder. He has international connections and has demonstrated knowledge of how to evade law enforcement. The government respectfully requests the defendant be remanded into federal custody without bail. The judge considers the arguments, the weight of the evidence, and the implications of setting bail for someone charged with such serious crimes. Judge making his ruling: The defendant is remanded into federal custody without bail pending trial. His passport is surrendered to the court immediately. All travel is prohibited. The defendant is remanded to the custody of the U.S. Marshal Service. This court is adjourned. The gavel sounds. Cole is led away in handcuffs. His expression shows no obvious emotion, but his eyes are calculating, already planning his next move, already thinking about how to minimize his liability. Cole's decision to cooperate is FBI Field Office Interrogation Room evening. Cole has changed his mind about his strategy after his arraignment. His initial confidence has been shaken by the reality of a potential life sentence. His lawyer, David Chen, is fighting this decision vehemently, but Cole is determined to protect himself. Cole to FBI agent, his voice controlled: I want to cut a deal. I'll provide complete cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence. I understand the evidence is overwhelming. I understand I'm going to prison, but I don't have to go for life. FBI agent skeptical: You already had your chance. You entered a not guilty plea. Cole urgently, I know. I made a mistake. I was still thinking I could fight this. But the evidence is overwhelming. I accept that. I want to cooperate now. FBI agent leaving the room. I'll talk to the prosecutor. Prosecution discussion. Cole's deal. Int. FBI Headquarters Prosecutor's Office continuous. Helen Chase is reviewing the latest developments with Agent Mercer and FBI Assistant Director Hudson. The discussion is brief and professional. This is business now. Helen Chase considering the situation. Cole is flipping. His cooperation could be valuable, but we have Webb already. Webb is enough to prosecute the murder case. We don't actually need Cole's cooperation for the murder charges. Agent Mercer thinking strategically, but Cole can give us the full infrastructure of the operation. Cole can give us the foreign intelligence liaison. Cole can give us everything about how Blackwell set up the extortion ring. That's valuable intelligence for national security purposes, not just criminal prosecution. FBI asked. Director Hudson making a decision. Offer Cole a deal. Conspiracy charges with cooperation against Blackwell. No death penalty alternative, but substantial sentencing reduction if cooperation is substantial and leads to Blackwell's apprehension and prosecution. Helen Chase immediately understanding the calculation. I'll present it to Cole. FBI interrogation. Cole's extensive cooperation. Int. FBI field office interrogation room later. Cole is provided with information about the prosecution's offer. It's not ideal. He's still facing decades in prison, but it's better than a life sentence, and it allows him to maintain some agency in how his fate unfolds. Cole to his new lawyer, assigned from the Federal Public Defender's Office. I accept the deal. Int. FBI headquarters conference room. Extensive briefing session. Hours later. Cole is providing comprehensive debriefing to FBI, CIA, and military investigators. He's describing his operation with remarkable detail. Names, locations, methods, financial infrastructure, foreign intelligence contacts. He's organized and systematic in his cooperation, clearly understanding that his cooperation is his only path to a reduced sentence. Cole describing his operational structure. I had regional coordinators in 12 major cities. Each coordinator was responsible for identifying targets, collecting compromising information, and managing the extortion payments. We used a network of private investigators, former military personnel, and cybersecurity specialists. We were like a small corporation, except instead of selling widgets, we were selling information and silence. FBI interrogator taking extensive notes. How many total operatives were working under you? Cole calculating mentally. Approximately 40 to 50 full-time operatives, plus a larger network of part-time investigators and information brokers. We were a sophisticated organization. We weren't amateurs. We had protocol, procedures, quality control, customer service. We had everything a legitimate business would have, except we were based on blackmail and extortion. FBI interrogator continuing. How much revenue were you generating annually? Cole after careful calculation between $30 and $40 million per year for the past 5 years. Prior to that, less, maybe 15 to 20 million. The operation grew as we perfected our methods and expanded our target base. We were efficient. We were profitable. We were expanding into new markets. CIA representative leaning forward. What was the nature of your relationship with foreign intelligence services? Cole careful here, understanding the national security implications. Blackwell managed those relationships. I was insulated from direct contact, but I understood that we were providing intelligence gathered from compromised military and civilian personnel to at least 3 foreign intelligence services, Russian, Chinese, and 1 Middle Eastern service. They were paying Blackwell substantial sums for that intelligence. I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of the operation. The scope of the operation is truly staggering. It's not just American extortion. It's international espionage at a massive scale. Blackwell's discovery in Sofia. Int. General Thomas Blackwell's apartment. Sofia, Bulgaria. Same time. Unknown to Cole and the FBI, General Blackwell is watching the news coverage of the arrests and investigation from his nondescript apartment in Sofia. He's in a modest neighborhood, living under an assumed name. He has substantial resources, multiple passports, financial accounts in various countries, safe houses strategically located throughout Eastern Europe. He watches the television screen as news reports cover the FBI's massive arrests and investigation. He watches as his operatives are being led away in handcuffs. He watches as his operation is being dismantled. His expression is calm and composed. He has weathered crises before. He'll do it again. He turns off the television and walks to his secure phone, making a call to a contact in Moscow, speaking in Russian. Blackwell in Russian. Subtitle on screen. The operation has been compromised. The Americans have turned my operatives. They're working with the Federal Bureau. I'm moving to secondary location. Activate contingency protocols. We re-establish in 6 months in a different country with different operatives. The capitalists will always need intelligence. There will be opportunities. He hangs up the phone and begins systematically packing. He's done this before. He'll do it again. He's a professional. Investigation progress 1 week later. NCIS bullpen day, 1 week after Webb's cooperation. The investigation has expanded dramatically. Now it's not just about Richardson's murder. It's about a massive corruption case affecting the highest levels of military and government. The team has expanded to include federal prosecutors, FBI agents, military investigators from all branches, intelligence analysts, and financial crime specialists. The walls are covered with photographs, maps, organizational charts, financial flowcharts. The evidence has grown to fill multiple filing cabinets and multiple databases. The complexity is staggering. Gibbs stands at the center of this chaos, reviewing the latest information. McGee approaches with a tablet showing new financial records. McGee showing Gibbs the tablet. We've traced the money. $87 million have been transferred to offshore accounts controlled by General Blackwell. Another $43 million are frozen in accounts we identified through Cole's testimony. We're still tracking an estimated $100 million that went through cryptocurrency and other untraceable means. Gibbs studying the information. What about Blackwell's current location? McGee shaking his head. CIA has been working on that. He's covered his tracks well. Last known location was Sofia, Bulgaria, 2 weeks ago. But he could have moved. Could be anywhere in Eastern Europe by now. Could have gone to South America or Southeast Asia. Torres approaches with additional information compiled over hours of research. Torres handing Gibbs a folder. I've compiled the victim list. 173 military officers, 42 civilian government employees, 27 private contractors, and an unknown number of civilian victims, people who are being extorted for non-military reasons. Gibbs reviewing the folder. How many of the military victims have been charged? Torres carefully. All of them technically. But charges for the extortion payments are being dropped in exchange for cooperation. They're being treated as victims rather than criminals. However, several are facing charges for providing classified information to foreign intelligence services. The weight of the implications settles over the bullpen like a heavy fog. This isn't just about one murder. This is about national security being compromised at the highest levels. This is about the fabric of trust within the military being torn. Sentencing hearings. Federal courthouse sentencing hearing 3 weeks later. Marcus Webb stands for sentencing. The courtroom is packed with media, federal officials, and military observers. Judge Patricia Morrison presides. Her expression is serious and grave. Judge Morrison from the bench, speaking to Webb directly. Mr. Webb, you have pleaded guilty to manslaughter in exchange for substantial cooperation with federal authorities. That cooperation has been instrumental in unraveling a massive corruption conspiracy affecting military and civilian personnel across this country. However, your actions resulted in the death of a man who, despite his involvement in criminal activity, did not deserve to die at your hands. Webb stands silently, showing no visible emotion, but his jaw is tight and his hands are clasped together. Judge Morrison continuing. I am sentencing you to 20 years in federal prison, with eligibility for parole after 12 years, contingent upon continued cooperation with federal authorities. Furthermore, you are dishonorably discharged from the United States Navy effective immediately. The gavel sounds. Webb is led away by federal marshals. In the gallery, his mother weeps quietly, her body shaking with sobs. His father stares straight ahead, his expression unreadable. Federal courthouse sentencing hearing later that day. Garrett Cole stands for sentencing. Unlike Webb, who cooperated relatively quickly, Cole fought the charges and maintained his not guilty plea. The jury found him guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, ordering a murder for hire, extortion, espionage, money laundering, and related federal crimes. Judge Patricia Morrison reviews the case materials one final time before rendering her sentence. Judge Morrison reading the sentence. Garrett Cole, you have been found guilty of multiple federal crimes, including ordering the murder of Hal Richardson. You orchestrated an extortion operation that affected hundreds of military and civilian personnel. You compromised national security by facilitating the transfer of classified information to foreign intelligence services. She pauses, letting the weight of his crimes settle over the courtroom. Judge Morrison continuing. I am sentencing you to 4 to 5 years in federal prison. You will serve this sentence without eligibility for parole. Additionally, you are ordered to forfeit all assets acquired through criminal activity, totaling approximately $189 million. Your bank accounts, properties, and investments are to be liquidated and the proceeds used to pay restitution to your victims. This court's decision is final. The gavel sounds. Cole is led away in handcuffs. He maintains his composure until he's out of the courtroom, but something in his eyes has changed. He's finally accepted the reality of his fate. 45 years in federal prison. He'll likely die in prison. International manhunt for Blackwell. CIA headquarters secure briefing room 2 months later. The CIA has been conducting an international manhunt for General Thomas Blackwell. They've been using satellite imagery, financial tracking, intelligence networks, and international law enforcement cooperation. The effort is massive and coordinated across multiple agencies and countries. NCIS Deputy Director is briefing the FBI, NSA, and military leadership on their progress. CIA Deputy Director presenting evidence on a large screen. We've located General Blackwell in Sofia, Bulgaria. He's been living under the assumed name of Thomas Bennett in a residential neighborhood. He's been conducting financial transactions through untraceable means. We've been coordinating with Bulgarian authorities and Interpol. We're executing an arrest warrant tomorrow morning, local time. We have confirmation from the Bulgarian government that they will cooperate in the arrest and extradition. The room erupts in quiet affirmation and professional satisfaction. After months of investigation, they're finally closing in on the mastermind behind the entire operation. Bulgarian apartment, Sofia. Next morning, Bulgarian police, with CIA operatives present as observers, execute the arrest warrant. They find General Blackwell preparing to flee. His apartment contains multiple passports, cash in various currencies, and airline tickets to Moscow purchased for later that day. Bulgarian police commander in Bulgarian, subtitled Thomas Bennett, you are under arrest on an international warrant issued by the United States of America. Blackwell doesn't resist. He calmly places his hands behind his back and allows himself to be handcuffed. He's been through this before. He knows how the game works. He knows that fighting only makes things worse. Within 24 hours, he's on a plane being extradited to the United States to face federal charges. Blackwell's federal arraignment. Federal courthouse arraignment 1 week later. General Thomas Blackwell stands before the judge. He's dressed in civilian clothes. He looks distinguished and calm, as if he's not facing charges that could result in a life sentence. He's 71 years old. A life sentence means he'll likely die in prison. The judge reading the charges. General Blackwell, you are charged with conspiracy to commit extortion, ordering multiple murders, espionage, money laundering, and crimes against the United States. How do you plead? His lawyer, a former military judge advocate general now in private practice named James Richardson, yet another James Richardson in this case, stands. Blackwell's lawyer addressing the court. General Blackwell enters a plea of not guilty to all charges. The government's case is based primarily on testimony from known criminals who have received favorable plea agreements in exchange for their testimony. General Blackwell maintains his innocence and requests bail pending trial. Helen Chase standing to object. Your Honor, General Blackwell is charged with ordering multiple murders. He is a significant flight risk. He has demonstrated an ability to disappear and evade capture for months. He has substantial international financial resources. He has connections to foreign intelligence services. The government respectfully requests he be remanded into federal custody without bail. The judge considers the arguments carefully, understanding the national security implications of this case. Judge making his ruling. General Blackwell is remanded into federal custody without bail pending trial. All international travel is prohibited. His assets are frozen pending legal determination. This court is adjourned. The gavel sounds. Blackwell is led away in handcuffs. But unlike Cole, Blackwell's expression shows something, a small smile, as if he knows something the others don't. As if the game is not over. Interrogation of Blackwell. FBI field office interrogation room later. General Blackwell is being interrogated by federal agents and military investigators. He's calm, composed, professional. He's clearly been in interrogation rooms before and understands how to navigate the process. FBI interrogator presenting evidence. We have testimony from multiple operatives in your organization. We have financial records showing hundreds of millions of dollars transferred to accounts controlled by you. We have proof of espionage and foreign intelligence liaison. We have evidence of ordered murders. The case against you is substantial. Blackwell calmly, I understand, and I deny all charges. I'm confident that my attorneys will demonstrate the weaknesses in the government's case. I have nothing further to say without counsel present. He closes his mouth and doesn't speak again. He's made a calculated decision to remain silent and let his defense attorneys fight the case in court. He knows the system. He knows the law. And he knows that silence is often the best strategy. Final resolution 6 months later. NCIS bullpen days. 6 months after Hal Richardson Richardson's death. The immediate crisis has passed. The arrests are complete. The trials are progressing through the federal system. The investigation's acute phase is over. The work continues, but at a slower, more methodical pace. The bullpen has returned to something approaching normal. Halloween decorations are gone. The evidence boards have been cleared. New cases are on the desks. Life moves on. Gibbs sits at his desk, reviewing the final case summary for Hal Richardson's murder. The investigation is closed. The murder is solved. Webb was convicted. Cole received his sentence. Blackwell is awaiting trial. Torres approaches with coffee, 2 cups, actually one for herself and one for Gibbs. Torres setting the coffee on Gibbs' desk, case summary filed. Gibbs nodding, filed and archived. It's done. Torres sitting on the edge of his desk, pretty heavy case. Gibbs reviewing his notes one final time, corruption at the highest levels. Espionage, murder. A man who was just trying to stay alive ended up dead anyway. And in the process, we uncovered something much larger than any of us expected. Torres after a pause, do you think it would have been different? If Richardson had come to us first? If Prescott had reported the blackmail immediately? Dave's looking up, maybe. Or maybe the corruption was already too deep. Maybe the networks were already in place. Either way, it's done. Justice was served. Multiple people are going to prison. National security protocols are being reviewed and strengthened. The military is implementing new counterintelligence procedures. It's not perfect, but it's something. Bishop approaching with Maji, boss, we've got a new case. Victim found at Union Station this morning. Appears to be military related. Gibbs standing and grabbing his jacket, let's go. The team gathers their things and heads toward the elevator. The camera pulls back, showing a bullpen from above as they exit toward the elevator, ready for the next case, the next mystery, the next opportunity to seek the truth. Epilogue text on screen. General Thomas Blackwell was convicted on 42 of 47 charges and sentenced to 75 years in federal prison. He died in 2032, still serving his sentence. Garrett Cole remains incarcerated, still serving his 45-year sentence, with no possibility of parole. Marcus Webb was released after serving 14 years of his 20-year sentence due to continued cooperation with federal authorities and exemplary prison conduct. He now works as a security consultant for a private firm specializing in counterintelligence. Lieutenant Bryce Prescott remained in the Navy and was promoted to commander. He now serves as a special operations liaison to Naval Criminal Investigative Service and has become an advocate for military personnel who have been victims of sexual harassment and blackmail. The corruption ring Cole established resulted in the implementation of new counterintelligence protocols across all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces. Hal Richardson's daughter, having discovered her father's final months of reluctant cooperation with federal authorities before his murder, established a scholarship fund in his memory for children of cancer victims and survivors of organized crime.